Yeah. And I would even say, I would even go even a bit further and say, even family and even our closest friends can sometimes get in the way of us making the right decisions for us, So
Oh yeah.
I'm on the opposite side where, I'm Catholic. Divorce is not a thing we do, right? I'm also
Yep.
Filipino. So, two strikes on me. But, had I listened to my family, they would have been like, no, stay there. But that was the moment where I had to be really clear about myself. But, I've been noticing that a lot of people, they make decisions based on what other people say that they should do when that person has no idea what's really going on. And they're only hearing one side of the story, right? They're
Right.
hearing their girlfriend's side and they're like, oh, he's no good. You should divorce him when they don't really know what's going on.
We keep saying find a third party, but it's really true because friends and family have a vested interest, and their worlds are colored by some like
Yes, their
are
own beliefs and their own
yeah,
experiences.
exactly, and their interactions with you and your wife or your husband, and so it's not an objective way. And as coaches, we have to meet people where they're at and not interject any of our belief systems and what we think. Or I have clients every week that I'm thinking in my mind, I don't think this is a really good idea, and then it turns out to be a really good idea. So that's the cool thing is I'm reminded every week that how I'm seeing it is not,
Mhm.
and that's why you make your own decisions. So if you can start having that mindset in your personal life and not just in session, like I know better what's for me than anybody else does, and my feeling is now. That's also not to say that your feelings aren't leading you astray, because our feelings happen to protect us, and if we've had abuse or trauma or whatever adaptive behavior from childhood, that's likely, and this is probably getting way too far into the weeds than we want to today, but that's likely keeping you in a position or a mindset that you're used to because it was helpful before, but it's not helpful for now. So I'm not saying that trust your gut all the time, because oftentimes your gut is telling you the wrong thing, but
Sure.
it's just like trust if you feel that you need to be doing something or doing the work or staying this in order to make improvements, or if you can save it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I wanted to ask you a funny question, actually. It just came to me. You said something in the first 2 minutes of this interview that really got me curious. You said that you got divorced, you said 10 years ago?
Yeah, almost 10 years, nine and a
Yeah.
half years.
And it's been kind of ongoing and it's taken another, almost 10 years to complete it and $100,000. I'm just curious, like what 100,000, like on what and why 10 years? I would really love to, educate people who are listening to this that are thinking about divorce, because I think that people don't realize that that's actually a possibility. So can you just maybe share, like, what are some of the things that people have to be realized and some of the, this could happen, just based on your experience personally, as well as what you're hearing from your male clients?
Sure. So my situation is probably abnormal, and the circumstances are just such that it's it's contentious, and my ex has an unlimited amount of resources. So there is no incentive to ever compromise. And therefore, the only way to resolve things is through attorneys in court. And so that's just what it comes down to, which becomes then expensive.
Wow.
And that's not everybody. Most situations and most people have a finite amount of resources, or at least enough common sense that they don't want to expend all of it. So mine is a little bit different
Gotcha.
than most, but it can be. And if there is one if there is one party that just does not want to, then that's what the situation becomes, is you
Mm.
have a court deciding your life for you and your children. And that is the worst possible way to go about this process, because you're leaving it up to somebody who knows little to nothing about you, the relational dynamic that we were talking about, your children, what their lives are like, what's best for them. And they're simply taking that hour to maybe 2 days, if you're lucky, and if it's a high conflict with a lot of moving parts in it, you may be getting 10 hour, 12 hours in front of a judge, and then there's going to be expert witnesses that are going to tell what they think, and they're going to just make a decision in 12 hours, not knowing anything about you or your family or what's really the best. It's just kind of a guess is what it is. So if you can figure out how to work through it and make the decisions on your own and move that in the direction that you want, that is the best possible way to do it.
Gotcha. And is it gone that long because you have children, or is it because of something else?
Oh yeah, children, absolutely. For me, it's been children, protecting my daughters and making sure that they're in an environment and having a life that is safe and beneficial to them. So yeah, for me, it's just been an investment, which is fine. I can make more money, and I do, and I will. So that's perfectly fine. But and again, this is a minority, but there are men. Unfortunately, a ton of the dads that come to me are in situations like this where they're being alienated, or they've already been alienated, or the children have been taken away, or there's some other kind of challenge around that, and that's unfortunate. And that happens on both sides. It happens on both sides. We hear a ton of narcissism being thrown around these days, which is kind of a word that I try to avoid, but it happens on both sides. There's not it's not one side or the other that does this with the children. And it's unfortunate because it comes again from a place of fear and thinking that that's going to do something that's going to help them deal with whatever it is that
they think it's going to give them closure,
shame or anxiety, whatever it is that they're trying to figure out and sort through. So yeah, it's sad. It's unfortunate because all that energy, all those resources could be better put to use with your children and other ways to help society, etc. But some of us don't have a choice.
Yeah, absolutely.
But you have a choice on how you show up. Right. So you could be bitter about it and upset about it, or you can take it and make it your life's work and try to help other people with it.
Yeah. Well, so my last question is, what advice can you give people that are thinking about divorce? And second part of the question is like, what are some of those mistakes or potholes or sort of things that you want people to just keep in mind when they are contemplating that?
Yeah, well, I think we covered the best advice, which is do everything you can to figure out how to communicate effectively. So if you're going to focus on something, if there's whatever's going on, if you want to try to save it, figure out how to communicate effectively. Go find somebody, a therapist or a coach, or read nonviolent communication if you want to start there, or whatever other method of communicating with somebody, and start practicing that. And you can start doing it yourself. You don't need buy-in from somebody, from the other person. You can start doing that yourself, like nonviolent communicate. You can learn to communicate in a way that is healthy. Doesn't mean that the person is going to communicate back to you like that, but you can start, and you'll be surprised. You'd be surprised in the changes that will happen automatically.
100%.
So yeah. So, and you know what I'm talking about. So I would say that is the first thing you can possibly do. And then as far as the challenges, just know that it is going to be challenging. And even what you described is probably what would be the best case scenario in a divorce is still difficult, right? You talked about your anger and the stuff that came up and disappointment and whatnot. It's still going to be difficult and challenging mentally and emotionally, and even in the best case scenario. So know that it's going to be work. It's going to be work, and you're going to have to put effort into it. So why not do it now and try to save it if you can? But if not, then go through it but do everything you can before pulling the trigger on that. And don't listen to all the nonsense out there. Really, seriously, I know you do free stuff, like free consultation. I do just schedule with us and we'll tell you. Don't listen to your girlfriend. Don't listen to, don't listen to whatever crazy podcast or whatever article that I just read that says there's some inequality in your marriage or other BSs. Call
Yeah.
one of us that talks and sees about it every day, and we'll say, that's not to say that we don't look at some situations and say, okay, well, nothing's impossible, but you've got some challenges on your hands. It depends on how much effort you want to make. We don't lie to people just to get them to be clients. We're going to be upfront with you, but get some good third party perspective on what it is. And maybe this goes to what we were talking about before. Maybe do that with more than one person.
Yes,
because
agreed.
there is a lot of bad coaches. There are a lot of bad coaches. There are a lot of bad therapists. There are a lot of bad plumbers. There's a lot of bad doctors, right? Okay, there's a lot of bad. So getting more than one opinion is incredibly important, because you were talking about your clients that they said, well, there's no hope for you. Well, there's always hope. But, depending, it's a spectrum of what the hope can be. So do that with more people. Call Janelle and then call me. And then Janelle's going to have you talk to me, or call me, and then I'm going to have you talk to Janelle too. So get more than one opinion on what you need to do.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I agree. I think that, it's not our job to tell people what to do. At least that's how I come about it. But, I'm really clear with my clients. I'm like, listen, my job, what I stand for, what my mission is on this planet is to save marriages. If you're not sure if you should save your marriage, that is not my job. I'm not here to convince you to save your marriage. I am the one that when you say, you know what, I want to save my marriage, I just don't know how, that's where I come in. But I will never tell someone what they should do with their relationship. That's up to them.
Yep.
And if they're not sure, then I'm like, well, then maybe you need to go figure that out. And when you figure it out, then you come talk to me, right? But I think you're right. I think it's talking with different people, feeling people's energy, seeing, where's the match, where the core values, where do they align? Where do they come from? Do they come from a place of, we want to save the marriage? Do they come from just strictly unbiased communication? Like, what is their specialty, if you will? Right. For me, I'm really about being super, super straight with my clients about what I see. I'm all about creating vulnerability and communication, and really ownership. Responsibility is a word that is like, if I could get paid, 10 cents for every time I use the word responsibility, I would be a millionaire. So
another word you don't hear out there in society either. Interesting, huh?
Oh, yeah. And so here's the thing is, when we hear
you're responsible, not somebody else, you're responsible.
Yeah.
And you hear the opposite all the time. Like, oh, it's this or it's that, or you're a victim, and you're not. I don't care. Look, I had significant childhood trauma and abuse. I'm not a victim.
Yeah.
I am not a victim. I have the ability to choose what I want to do with that.
Yeah.
And so that empowers me. I'm not a victim. I can use that for good and for positive, and I do continually.
Yeah, absolutely. And I also want to create a different context for the word responsibility. A lot of people, when they hear the word responsibility, they think blame, they think fault. No, in my world, responsibility is simply the ability to respond. We cannot respond when we're in victim mode, because we think that the problem is out there.
Right.
But when we when we have the ability to respond, we're taking ownership, going, yeah, you know what? I did that. Yeah, you know what? I upset you. Yeah, you know what? I didn't do that thing you said I was supposed to do.
Yep.
It's not blame. It's not shame. It's not bad. It's not good. It's just ownership.
Right.
Neutral. There's no morality in it. And I think that's what makes the word responsibility feel really uncomfortable, because they think it's a moral thing. It's like, if I'm being responsible, I'm admitting I'm bad. No. Being responsible is an empowering context if you create it that way.
Yep, exactly. Absolutely.
So Jude,
I love it.
Sorry, go ahead.
I love it. No, well, I know, we interact enough to know we're on the same page all the time, but I think everybody else is probably like, they scripted all this stuff. I'm like,
no.
On the same page with stuff. So and so I'll just stay with this, or I'll just finish with this, is that it transforms your life. Like I know some of your story, you know some of my story. It transforms your life when you're able to then do this. Let's that what I was talking about later. There might be this Joey Klein, the Inner Matrix, uses this example of, you know, there you might be looking for this beauty, this beautiful waterfall, and you're in the forest, but you can hear it, but you can't see it because you're in there. But if you step back, if you change your perspective on your mindset on it, you can look back and you can see it, right? Because you stood back and you see all the forest, and then you see it behind her. Right.
Yeah.
So when you change this mindset and when you change that perspective, it can absolutely expand your life. And you talked about a little bit earlier, whether you're working down here in that fear, or then working up here in this, you know, thriving and creating and just awesome. It's just awesome. And then you're moving your life where you want it to go, as opposed to just reacting to what's happening. It's really pretty awesome.
Yeah. Jude, I always enjoy being with you. You're so
Likewise.
awesome. Your love and your stand for men, and just being that angel for them in their darkest moments when they feel like life has completely abandoned them, and they don't know what is in front of them, and they're scared. They are so scared. So I really acknowledge you for who you are in the world and the difference that you make. I would love to know, what do you have coming up? What programs you got going on, if anyone's interested in working with you?
Yes. So we just launched yesterday the Divorced Dadvocate membership site. So we have a goal of getting 2,000 men in the community in 6 months.
Beautiful.
And so if you go to the divorcedadvocate.com, you can check that out under membership. And I wanted to offer out to your audience, Janelle, if anybody, I want to give away a free year membership to anybody that will email me at Jude, Jude, at thedivorcedadvocate.com. And so there's 2 D's behind the divorced and dadvocate, thedivorcedadvocate.com, and put in the subject line, Janelle Rocks. Then I will give you a free 1-year membership to the site. And the site is awesome. And the membership is awesome. We've got a mobile app. We've got free workshops, free classes. We're going to have private discussion groups. It's kind of like a social media platform within it for dads to talk about different things, whether it's before, during, or after divorce. And then if you want to do private coaching, there's a discount, 25% discount on private coaching. We're going to have member-only podcasts and experts like you in there and working with guys. So it's going to be really, really amazing. So check that out. That's the most exciting thing that we're working on. We got a lot of other stuff going on, but that,
yeah, it sounds like it.
That'll be awesome.
Like it. Yeah, I love the work that you do, Jude. I love who you are. I love what you stand for. And thank you for taking this time to be with us, to be with my people, and just talk about this topic that I think is really, really important. And, you know, I think you and I both are committed to, you know, transforming the world and thrive in creating thriving family and creating that healing process. So thank you for being with me today.
Amen. My pleasure.
All right. Bye for now.